You're watching Leafs Morning Take with host Nick Alberga and former NHLer Jay Rosehill. The show starts now.
All right, what's good, everybody? It's time for the Wednesday edition of Leafs Morning Take. Nick Alberga and Jay Rosehill here, presented by Betano. What's going on, Rosie?
Hi, Nick. Nothing much, man. Same old post-game loss.
Yeah, post-game loss. The sky's falling, I think, in this market. You played on this team. I think it's just so hilarious. Every win and loss, it goes from like plan the parade to this team sucks, fire everybody. You talked about it yesterday, a meaningless game with 12 remaining against the New Jersey Devils. And just I'm a bit stunned at the reaction to that loss, but we're going to get to that. In general, it was a fascinating day, I would say, on social media. Couple weird takes, and they weren't for me, but there was a big one about Zach Hyman, wasn't there?
Yeah, and I just checked this out this morning too after seeing it a bunch and just not giving it. But like, a guy is literally saying that the media is not being truthful and honest when they cover Zach Hyman's 50-goal plateau at 31 years old, a guy who you didn't really expect that in the past, who's done something, a big accomplishment. And they're not being truthful when covering it because they're not mentioning how much privilege he's had because his parents are wealthy, and the training and the ice time and stuff that he's had is leaving that out of the story is being untruthful. And he was very serious, very adamant about this. Thought he just had a world-beating take. And I think the replies to this guy kind of say it all.
Dude, I have not seen the hockey community come together like they did on Tuesday, where it was like a live burial on X, Twitter, social media. It was just like a weird take, like a weird stance. Like, I think the unique thing with Zach Hyman, even though he's an Edmonton Oiler now, like, find me a Leafs fan who hates this guy. Like, I'm genuinely happy for the guy. And I think that's the weird thing for me is like, why would you run down Zach Hyman, who pound for pound is one of the more likable players in the NHL? Like, it was a weird take. Like, why not go after Sam Reinhart, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. And I mean, the point wasn't that hockey's too expensive. The point wasn't that it's difficult to be an elite, minor hockey league player if you're financially not secure. That wasn't the conversation. And if you want to have that conversation on the side, that's fine. It was that you should not report graciously about his 50 goals in the NHL without the caveat that his parents are, I don't even know how wealthy they are, but enough to have all these extra privileges and entitlements of extra ice time, extra training and stuff. And it's just fucking insane because every kid who gets to the NHL has had a lot of training and has had lots of ice time and has probably played some travel teams and that type of thing. And absolutely it gets expensive, but that wasn't the point. The point was the media is not doing its job by not reporting that. And I mean, I tweeted back saying, so what is your point? What do you want? Like, what do you think went wrong? Do you think that the media, like Sportsnet and all the big boys and all the podcasts and CBC and everyone else, whenever they're talking about this feat, they have to stop and say, by the way, this player's net worth of his parents was X growing up. Like, is that like, I don't know what he wants. How is it irresponsible journalism that you're not talking about his parents' financial status when talking about a sports accomplishment? Like, what a bloody moron, man. Like, just a complete moron. And he said it with such conviction and such, strength that he just truly believed that this was such a misstep on the side of the media. And I've got my own gripes with media, but like, what do you actually want out of there? Like, that's insane. Can you imagine like the people watching the highlights going, what the fuck did they just say about his parents' wealth while talking about 50 goals? Like, it completely irrelevant, completely ridiculous, and one of the dumber takes I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, me too. And again, I'm the king of dumb takes. But for the most part, I back it up. I bring some credence to it. Like this was just so far out of left field. It's like, let's complain about somebody who's having a historic season and a great season and a very likable guy. Like, the guy writes kids books. Like, it just didn't make sense to me. And when you start something with like this might make people upset. Your goal, your focus is to piss people off. Like that's what he was trying to do. He was trying to antagonize. He wants hockey media to do a better job of telling truthful stories. And pretty much says the only reason Zach Hyman's good is because his parents were rich and he was fortunate, brought the upbringing and the privilege. And it was just a weird, weird stance, man. Like, and again, this guy has been the king of those type of takes. But like, I think one little look at his social media feed, and I think you might comprehend what's going on there. But it was just like a weird, weird stance to take, especially on a guy like Zach Hyman, who, again, you look at the and that's another thing too, is I don't know why the name has become so polarizing over the last little while. Why people can't come to grips with Zach Hyman scoring 51 goals in the NHL. Like I think it's great. Like I think, yeah, it stinks that he's not a Maple Leaf anymore, but am I losing sleep over it? Probably not. I mean, they're the same team. They get the same amount of points every year. Like, whatever. It is what it is.
Yeah, and like if you go around, like I'm kind of just getting into the thick of minor hockey here, and there are people that spend outrageous amounts of money and just jump through hoops to try to get their kid. And my biggest gripe with minor hockey is the parents are caring more than the kids about it. The parents are desperate to get their kid to the next level. And for every person like that that's got their kids spending tens of thousands of dollars every single year on their kid, do they all go make 50, score 50 in the NHL? Like, you think that he's the only kid with parents who spent a lot of money on his upbringing and his hockey? Like, that's almost every kid at elite level of hockey have parents spending tons of money, and they don't all score 50 in the show. Like, it's completely irrelevant. Like, you, if you want to have the opposite conversation of how about a talented kid whose parents can't afford to do that, that's a different conversation. I'm all for having that, but that's not what he's saying. He's saying that the media needs to caveat the fact that his parents had money growing up when talking about his 50 goals, which I think you'd be hard pressed to find anybody whose parents didn't spend a lot of time, effort, money, and energy on their kids growing up to make it to the NHL. But just such a stupid goddamn take. And yeah, there's a reason we're not even giving this guy's name out, because he's such a goddamn idiot. But it made a lot of buzz in the Twitter world and Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff. And just because it was so goddamn stupid.
Oh, it was bizarre. It was weird. I fear for the day that Mitch Marner scores like 50 goal or 100 points, and this guy starts running down Paul Marner, man. There's going to be hell to pay for that.
Oh, he'll come after him, I'm sure.
Yeah. All right. So I think there's one thing we want people to do when watching this podcast. Subscribe. We are very, very close to 8,000 subs. In fact, it could happen on this very live show right now. So if you're not already and are watching and are a little bit intrigued about what we're saying, please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, Leafs Morning Take wherever you find your podcast. Make sure if you're listening in podcast form, leave us a 5-star review. That would be fantastic. So let's get into things here. Lots to uncover for the game against the New Jersey Devils, brought to you by DoorDash. It's time for the appetizer. For a limited time, our listeners can get 25% off, up to $10 in value, and zero delivery fees in their first order of $15 or more. When you download the DoorDash app, enter code NATION25. That's code NATION25, all in uppercase, 25% off your first order with DoorDash. Offer valid in Canada, subject to change. Terms apply. So the 12-game point streak against the Devils snapped. What was the last thing I said on yesterday's show? I hope they play a good game. Did we see a good game, Rosie? We did not.
Not really. No, I mean, to me, it breaks down. The loss breaks down to two things: goaltending and just kind of turnovers, odd man rushes, like just defensive responsibility, which it oftentimes does. I mean, if you have a different goalie in there, we probably go up 3-1 and we don't look back and we're celebrating right now. But you get goalied pretty hard on the other end. That is a fact. We peppered him and he came up huge. Woolsey didn't really play that good at all. Like, he didn't make the big stop when he needed to. Fine. That happens. But to me, it's two spots. It's on the offensive blue line. When we're in their end and we're on our blue line, we don't cover each other at all. Like, the weak side defenseman standing in the middle of the ice, and there's like a bobbling, 60-40 puck on the wall that your partner's going to, they'll just stand there flat-footed and assume he's going to get him, and they chip it by. Oh God, you're toast. And they don't cover each other very well. And then in front of the net, like, we're scrambling around, we're leaving blatant men open, like whether it's the point or the back door, whether we collapse around the net, then we don't even come up with the loose pucks, or else we just let a shooting gallery go to the outside. It's like, That's pretty basic stuff. And it's kind of been my gripe with this team for a while is what is their system? Like, do they go to the whiteboard? Do they break down video and say, here's where we can get roasted. Here's where our deficiencies are. So we're really going to drive home the fact that this area needs to be, primarily thought of in this situation to make sure that this is covered, to make sure that these holes don't get opened up and expose us. That's the difference in a lot of games with this team. Drive it home, drive it home, drive it home. By the time you're in the playoffs, that's something that, hopefully becomes your strength, at least doesn't become a huge deficiency. But it's just the same fucking thing over and over again. Like, they're just running around. Like, do you not have a kind of a set D zone plan on how you attack it as a 5-man group? It doesn't seem like they do over and over again, which is my big gripe.
Dude, coming on this show today, the one thing I won't do is run down the goaltending. I think it is the toughest position to play in this market. We talk about this all the time, how difficult it is to be a Toronto Maple Leaf for the best of guy. But the fact that a month ago, we're talking about Joseph Woll coming back. This guy's the savior. He's the next Carey Price. He has a bad, stretch of games to come back. Can't forget he's coming off pretty serious injury. And the amount of ridicule I'm seeing on social media is insane to me. Number one, like, these games don't matter. I hate it to say it, this people. I mean, it does not matter. They're going to the Stanley Cup playoffs. It really doesn't matter who they play in the playoffs. I know you want to play well, but, like, don't we want this guy to succeed? Like, it makes no sense to me. Like, it reminds me of the first game of the season where people were off on Samsonov, the guy who was your best goalie the previous year. Let's put him into the ground. And obviously he went in a crazy, crazy tailspin there. But, like, the one thing I won't do on today's show is Barry Woll. That said, I agree with you. He wasn't at his best. You can't surrender the first goal in 2 straight games. That can't happen. He admitted to his issues post-game. But I have to give Woll, like, a longer leash, man. Like, I think he has proven why he's legit. He has proven why people believe in him. But that's the one thing I won't do today.
Well, listen, like, I've said it before, and if people don't get it or not, that's fine. But it's my biggest gripe with this market. It's my biggest gripe with the Toronto Maple Leafs media, fan base, the city itself, the whole Leafs nation, is they're far too quick to turn. And like you said, they're planning a parade and building statues, and then they're tearing it to the studs and letting it on fire, all within like a weekend. And it's just not right. It's not how it works. And you say, that's what they think. They think, Woll is the next Carey Price. He has to be. And as soon as he shows, a little bit of a thing, fuck him, he's not the next. Like, they expect perfection, and it's not realistic. Joseph Woll is a talented goaltender. He is expected to be the Leafs' primary goaltender in the future. And what he becomes, what his ceiling is yet to be determined. Nobody knows what that is. But I promise you, if you care about this team and you're frustrated by not winning in the past, what angle do you want to take? Do you want to just expect perfection when you don't see it, tear it apart and start again? We've been doing that for decades, and no one can get over the hump because you tear them down when they're not perfect, and nobody's perfect. So if you want Joseph Woll to become the next Carey Price, even if you expect him to, what way are you going to go down? Are you going to tear him down, or are you going to support him? You have to understand nobody's perfect, and nobody knows what Joseph Woll is going to become. But if you support him and help him out and believe in him and do that thing that I've been talking about on not ripping it apart and not being negative and not making it insanely difficult to play, because then those players are going to shut you out. They're going to give you shitty answers, shitty interviews. They're not going to want to take part. You're going to think that they're entitled, spoiled millionaires. That's the cycle that just constantly happens. This guy's a very good goaltender. He's very young. His potential is through the roof. Are you going to support him, or are you going to tear him down every time he has a misstep? The choice is up to Leafs Nation. And I know which way they've gone in the past, and it is frustrating. I've been vocal about it. You got to support these guys and help them develop into what they are. Don't make it a toxic environment, because it's hard to flourish in those.
I just want to know, were his parents rich growing up?
That is the key. That is the key question. That's all I'm worried about. That's all I care
because
about.
that if you're privileged, I mean, you have a better opportunity to succeed in this league. There's no doubt about that. But my major takeaway from the game, and again, the goaltending has to be better. It's assumed at this point in time, especially. And again, I was talking to producer Vic after the game, and he's like, "Well, like, there was no excuses for Jake Allen," which is correct. Jake Allen was superb. 42 saves. Yeah, he was a big story in that game. I think the Leafs had some really, really strong opportunities, including in the first period, outshooting the Devils 25-10. But my major takeaway is that the Leafs, and Devils for that matter, like, it felt like a beer league game where it's like, we're not going to play defense. The last goal wins. Like it really, really was weird for me for a team. And everything I just referenced at the top is accurate. Like, the playoffs aren't starting tomorrow, but you sort of want to put yourself in a good position. It was just very free and easy, that type of hockey game.
Yeah, it is, and it's tough this time of year. I mean, they're hurt and they're beat down. They have some key pieces gone. A
Sure.
lot of things went against them. It looked like they were off to a fantastic start, scoring in the first minute, just peppering them. It looked like they had it, and it didn't go their way. And yeah, I think, like I said, when you look at it, it's because of their defensive deficiencies. And we could have used an extra save from Wool here or there, and their goaltender was fantastic. End of story. But I guess when you say these games don't matter, I agree in a sense that the 2 points don't matter to me. I don't really care that we didn't get 2
It
points. I'm
triggers you.
not
You're like, that's you.
that's what doesn't matter to me, but the way you're playing matters to me. Building
Yeah.
momentum into the playoffs matters to me. Like having your identity and accessing it every single night matters to me. So I think that's where we butt heads when you say they don't
Yeah.
matter. I think you're talking about the standings and the 2 points. Fine, agreed. I don't care about 2 points. I know who we're playing in the playoffs, assuming some catastrophic landslide, which probably really isn't going to happen. It's the fact that how are we playing? Like you can't just play like shit and be inconsistent and abandon the system and loop and shoot and dick around and have this guy sleeping and that guy not show up, and then all of a sudden it's like, all right, game 1 of the playoffs. Now we're this well-oiled machine. Does not work that way. So that's my gripes when they have kind of lackluster performances. Not the 2 points were lost. It's what are we doing out there and why can't we bring our best more consistently?
Important to stress, Joel Edmondson didn't play. Morgan Riley didn't play. I don't want to use it as reasoning, but I was very intrigued as like the wording post game, like the word immature was thrown out there quite a bit. It seemed like Nylander was pissed off. Like we talked about this earlier the year, like just be pissed or look pissed after the game. This is the first time, and again, it's really, really strange and weird that like a lot of these guys pick this game to complain about and bitch about and be unhappy about. Like even Sheldon Keefe, some of his comments post game were very interesting. Like, he took shots at John Tavares, said he himself got carried away tonight. That's our captain. He had some choice words. Like I just thought it was unique that was the game that Sheldon Keefe's like, you know what? I'm gonna bury this team. I wasn't happy. They've had a lot of these types of games. I didn't think they played that bad. I mean, you put what 45 shots on goal. Like it wasn't like they were terrible. It was more so like defensively, like they didn't bring anything. But I thought it was kind of interesting that they had some choice words.
Yeah, I kind of did too. Odd timing to get up in a half. Immature. I just think that maybe they were trying to kind of force, a square peg through a round hole, and when it wasn't working, and it
Yeah.
was clearly time to go back to the basics and to frame up your outlook out there, they continue to do the same things, hoping that it would work. That's kind of my understanding of saying that. But yeah, a little bit of an odd time. There's so many times like we're pulling our hair out, just breathing fire. Like, are you kidding me? And they're on the mic going, yeah, a couple bounces here and there, and you're like, are you kidding me? And you're rattled. And then this one, you're kind of like, there's a few things you could point to for sure. They weren't good enough, and the mistakes cost them, but they're kind of rattled at the podium. Which whatever. Anytime the team you care about and follow and have expectations for is very disturbed by a loss, I like that. It's in a certain way you park it after a while and you move on, but you got to quote unquote learn from it, and move on. But I'd rather that than them be nonchalant about the losses, which I think they have been in the past. But again, because of the market they're in, they have to protect themselves. They have to do everything they can to stay positive in that room. Because if they follow the media in that room, when you're not, even when you're doing okay, they will drag you down. And if you listen to everything and go along with the narrative, they'll drag you down to nothing. You have to prop yourself up. And that's why we get this, bit of a wall and a suit of armor on these guys, that when they're talking to the media, they're protecting themselves from the negativity and from being brought down from all of the outside, energy. So I get it on both sides. I see it on both sides, being a media guy and being in that locker room. But I don't mind them being a little bit extra frustrated by last night.
Yeah, I didn't mind that either. I just thought it was interesting that that's the game they chose. Jake
Yeah.
Allen was a true story for me, especially in the first half of the game. I thought he was superb. He was stellar. Probably the biggest reason New Jersey walks away with the 2 points in that one. The other one being Toronto's defense or lack thereof. But sometimes you got to find different ways to win games. And the Leafs are unable to find that way against the hot goalie. I thought Jake Allen was great.
He really was. Like I said, you come out, score the first goal, and pepper them any other night of the week. They get a 4-2 win, and we're not really talking about much here. It's a different narrative, and I don't think people understand like the margins in that league are very thin. A 6-3 loss they lost. It looks like if you didn't watch the game, you're looking there and going, Jesus. But like just throw any other goalie on any other day in there and it could just totally be a flipped script. And sometimes that's the margins, and that's not an excuse for them. And even though the goalie was doing that, their deficiencies still cost them the game. They still had the opportunity to win. When they're one away and they're peppering them, they could have gotten it done and tied that game, and it could have gone a different way. It's a razor's edge, all the different narratives and possibilities. But at the end of the day, that's what stands out for me. Big time goaltending on the other side. Ours wasn't as strong as it could be. And just some of those, the odd man rushes. You just can't give up 3 and 4 clear cut from the other blue line odd man rushes. You do that in the playoffs, that team will get up 3-1 and they won't give it back. And you do that a couple times, all of a sudden you're down 2-0 in the series and you're toast. You can't do that, man. And they're pretty bad at it. Like, just lost assignments. Like, if your D's low, someone's got to cover. Like, I think it was McMahon was up on the point, and there's this kind of little 50-50 puck, and McCabe's already down. He knows that because he's covering him on the point, and then he just flies down at not even a loose puck and gets roasted, and you can see his reaction going, oh God. Like, those things in the National Hockey League destroy you. They score on them every time. It's always in the back of your net when you have the slightest hiccup. It's the reason I grip my stick to the point where I'm surprised it wasn't crushed in my hands, because it's so razor thin, those margins between, making the right play and it instantly being in the back of your net. So that's kind of my gripe, is these odd man rushes, man. You just can't afford them. And in the playoffs, man, it'll be the difference in so much. It's so much more magnified, those little mistakes, and it's kind of their Achilles heel. As good as this Maple Leafs team is, if they're going to keep doing that, I don't think they can go the distance unless they have some Cinderella story. And I mean, I wonder if Keefe is preaching that. Like, he sees the games, he watches them. Isn't that the number one priority, is shoring up that identity of team defense and the systematic structure that keeps the puck to the outside, and everyone knows where they're supposed to be in every situation. And it's not like they're robots out there, but this team can't play freewheeling hockey, or you will get picked apart more often than not.
You're right. There's just a lot of lapses with this team. Like, one moment they'll be like making the right decision, the next it's like the computer shuts off and the brain shuts off and they don't know what they're doing. And to think that that's magically going to change in like 15 games from now, I think is interesting. I think they know what they have. I think they need TJ Brody to be better. I thought he was a bit better in that game. It's tough to analyze when you lose that way. I didn't particularly like Simone Benoit's game. I know he registered 10 hits, but all in all, again, you're without Edmondson, you're without Riley, so I think you have to equate that into the conversation too. But there was a lot of negatives defensively. It was one of their worst defensive outings, I would say, in months. It was dreadful. It was brutal. I thought there was a bit of desperation as well for the New Jersey Devils. I know it's going to be tough for them to make the postseason, but I think they found ways to respond every time the Leafs closed and scored. But I want to talk about a couple positives. Austin Matthews hits the score sheet again, number 59, needs 11 and 11 to get 70. His current pace is 68. Nylander gets number 40, needs one more for a career high. And I don't want to lose sight of the fact that individually, a lot of these guys are having wicked years once again.
Yeah, they're good players. They're good players. They're capable of putting up big numbers. Marner's missed some time here, but he can put up some pretty damn good numbers and be close to that 100-point season. I think he probably would have had a chance at it this year, maybe, if he got hot and didn't get hurt. Nylander speaks for himself. Austin Matthews speaks for himself. It's we know that already. That's fine. It's nice to talk about. That's great.
Yay!
I don't think
Go team.
Austin, yeah, go individual efforts, but and that's good, and that's why this team can be good sometimes. But I mean, when you have that team and you have those people who are offensively gifted and talented, and you're paying them such a thing, and then you're going to surround them with, you got guys that are stepping up to the plate. You got the Bobby McMahons and you got these Holmbergs and Domi's coming to it and Bertuzzi's coming to it, and you're getting what you wanted about this support structure around them who are capable. And I'm not pitchforking Sheldon Keefe right now just yet, but I'm not seeing enough coaching of this is how this group has to play, especially the support guys, and they have to have a structure. I just keep saying that there's no structure. It's like street hockey, and they're talented enough where it gets it done sometimes, but if you want to win a Stanley Cup, you have to be really disciplined in how all 20 guys on the bench, where their minds are and what they do together as a unit out there shift after shift, to make sure that you don't have these big breakdowns and these big mind-numbing meltdowns that are 3-on-1s and in the back of your net, and you're just peppering, you're about to get back in the game because you had a big meltdown in front of your net and they're up one, and then no, big fat 2-on-1 from the top of their circles some goddamn way, and it's in the back of your net and it's game over. Like, to me, that's discipline of a structure of taking care of business in certain areas at certain points in the game and certain zones of the rink that they're just not doing. And I can just, in my mind, I'm just like, he's not beating a structure into their head from training camp. This is our identity, this is what we're working towards, and every day it's more of getting everyone on the same page. It just doesn't seem like that's happening, and to me, that's the downfall, along with not getting any consistency in the lineup and the line changes and the D pairings and the blendering of the bodies, man.
What'd you think of the hot mic catching Nylander bitch about McMahon not passing on the 2-on-1? That happens a lot, right?
I saw that in the notes, but I didn't see it. I didn't hear it. So what was his tone and what did he
So
say?
So there was a 2-on-1, excuse me, with Bob McMahon and Willie Nylander, and McMahon chose to shoot the puck. He is a shooter, and you can hear like Mike Johnson's in between the benches for the TSN coverage of the broadcast, and you can hear Nylander bitch something to the effect of like pass the puck or something like that, like something a star player would say. I think it happens quite frequently, but unfortunately, it was caught on Mike, and every time a player is demonstrative towards another teammate or something like that, it becomes a bigger story. It really didn't evolve after that, but like it happens a lot, I think. No,
I wouldn't say a lot, but there are times, especially a guy like, there's a hierarchy of who needs the
of pay.
rock.
One guy
And
makes $1.5 million, the other makes $1 billion.
basically, and I mean, if you're on a 2-on-1 and the game's on the line or it's overtime, like, who do you want? Like, you're trying to get that guy the puck. And I don't even remember the specific play, but I mean,
Yeah,
obviously the pass was probably taken away. He saw, some net
it was
behind the
there.
goaltender and he shot it. And yeah, a guy like Willie wants the puck all the time. Usually you kind of have that conversation in private, or a guy will roll his eyes here and there, like it happens. But to catch it on a mic, maybe it's a bigger story. But I don't know. I mean, I remember Kessel feeding me in the slot one time, and I tried to rip it low glove, and it got a piece of his cheater and deflected into the thing. And then on the bench, he's like, "Why don't you fucking bury that?" I'm like, "Well, I'm not you, dude. Like, I did everything I could. I would have liked to bury it, but those guys that are high end, they want the rock, they want the puck, they want to finish plays, they want it done the way they want it because they have the ability to do it. They've got it in their mind already. They can finish, they can complete the plays. So not a huge deal. That stuff happens, but it's an ugly look when it's caught on mic and it's to your own teammate.
No disrespect, but why in the good name of David Clarkson were you on the ice with Phil Kessel?
I was wondering that myself. It was in Tampa, and I just kind of snuck down, just a line change, man. Fourth line for first line. You overlap sometimes, believe it or not. And usually when I notice, I am scrambling for a line change, but thought I'd drive down Broadway, baby, get a little 1T off the knee. Just couldn't finish.
I won't lie. I've been down a rabbit hole on YouTube watching some of your career. It's not all about fists, man. You had some finishing ability. There's no doubt about that. And I always sit up at night and wonder if Sheldon Keefe was your head coach, there is no doubt in my mind you would get shifts on the first line, the second line, the third line.
Can
You'd
you
probably
imagine?
play a couple shifts on D. I mean, you do have that background too.
Net front on the power play is about as far as I would humanly go. But other than that, no. I was more of a disher for sure. I could pass the puck pretty good, but finishing wasn't great at. I'd grip it a little hard and think a little extra hard. In general, man, that whole league. I had some coaches growing up, like that would just fucking wail on me for like a missed pass in practice. And I'm 20 years old in the American Hockey League. And I remember gripping my stick so tight that I would get anxiety about practice and making passes. And just a couple of coaches, man, will strip your kind of confidence. And for the rest of my career, I'd grip it a little too tight. And I look back saying, man, I wonder if you could just relax a little bit. But I
Yeah.
think everyone's got to deal with that type of thing. And I ended up, I wasn't in the league to do certain things, so I didn't even try to do them. You just stuck to what what they wanted you to do. Because if you deviated, like if I had the puck and didn't chip it deep, for example, and go forecheck, if I tried to make like a little spot pass right to the middle for my guy to step on, I can make that play. But even if I do make it, you go to the bench and they'd be like, "Hey, that's not your play. We got guys make that play. When you're out there, it's because we want, ozone time. We want some bodies banged. We want some energy. So I don't want you making that pass. I want you chipping it deep, even if it's there." And they just tell you can't do it. And then, that's just the role they want you to play. You got to play. And I don't know why I'm on a tangent about my bad hands, but here we are.
Yeah, what I gathered is that you hate Randy Carlyle, you hate Ron
It wasn't.
Wilson, and
It it wasn't Randy Carlisle. It was Steve Sterling, who was the
okay.
former New York Islanders thing. Fuck, did he rip me apart? He told me as a defenseman in the American Hockey League to ice the puck, put it in the bench, or put it in the stands. I don't care.
Jesus.
Just make sure the puck's. I don't want to see the puck on your stick tonight. As a developing 21-year-old defenseman in the American Hockey League, that was his advice to me, and I was just stripped of all confidence. It kind of bugs me, but I
Oh,
got the platform
sorry.
to bitch about it now.
Yeah, maybe he was a Jersey Shore guy and he wasn't a big fan of grenades and he thought the puck was a grenade on your stick. Like that's my conclusion.
He obviously did, but if
Yeah.
your job is to make me better and get me to the next level, I don't think that's the way I would go about it with a young kid.
I think we should
Personally,
get him on the podcast. That's my foregone conclusion. I did like the Domi Matthews Bertuzzi line. Like you talked about it. 3 seconds in, boom, they score. Dude, there's some budding chemistry with Domi and Matthews. Like I watched them play. It's like, again, you've played the game long enough and at a really, really high level. Like when you have chemistry with somebody. I've watched, couple weeks now of like long-term looks at Matthews and Domi. Like they just seem to know where they're going to be at it. And again, I don't want to equate it to like a Marner Matthews combo level, but like they really, really jive well together.
yeah, it's in the last handful of weeks, not even. But Domi just he's got pretty good vision and he knows where Matthews is. And you can tell that by some like no look passes, behind the back stuff. And I think me, I'm not a big proponent of no look passes and behind the back
No.
shit. But it's like when it's in a scramble and he's got two guys on him and the puck's bobbling, and you should me, for example, would just get the puck and then go into the corner and then try to cycle it or something. He knows where Matthews is, and it doesn't even look like he's shoulder checked or they haven't been part of a play, and he just whips it over. I don't know if he knows he's there or he knows that he's probably there, but he just finds Matthews all the time. And there's a couple of goals here this week where Domi gets Matthews the puck. Matthews buries like that 1 5-holer, and he looks up at him and points at him and goes, "Are you kidding me? Like you can get me the puck in that situation." Like like you could tell Matthews was like, "This guy can play with me because he knows, he sees, and he feels where I am." And it's been awesome. And then you got Bertuzzi, who's found his stride too, and can bury those things down low and get sprung for certain. I think he complements them well. And if Marner comes back, I said yesterday, I like the way how you don't have to put Marner right back with, because normally it's like, well, you need Marner there to get the most out of Matthews. Yeah, I get it. But if you don't have to, and you can put Marner somewhere else to make someone else really good and spread your depth out, fucking rights, man. That's a deadly combination if that can continue. We'll
Yeah, I
see what
want
keeps.
some length. I want some depth to that lineup, and that'll be the intrigue as Mitch Marner continues to ramp things up for a potential return. I would say in the next week and a half, which is great to see what they do because that top line has been humming. They've been really, really good, and maybe the lone bright spot from that 6-3 loss to the New Jersey Devils on Tuesday night. This segment is brought to you by Tim Hortons. Roll Up to Win is back for Tim's 60th anniversary, and to celebrate their big year, you can win some big prizes like an all-electric Volkswagen ID4, a sun-soaked Hilton getaway, and cash with a daily jackpot of $10,000. Play today on the Tim's app. So just as we went off the air on Tuesday's show, Sheldon Keefe saying Mark Giordano is now healthy, cleared to play. He's been out since February 29th due to a concussion. What do you think Gio's role could be down the stretch here for this team?
Yeah, it's tough to say, man. There's
Yeah.
It seems to be pretty log jammed on the D side of things. I think the bigger story is like TJ Brody that we've been talking about. Like, where does he fit? Is he in? Is he not? Is who's coming out if he's in? Type of thing. But you throw Gio in the mix, and it's tough. He's got the experience level. He's got the smarts. I think he's got the discipline. But opportunity to be a little bit exposed, especially now that he's been out for so long. At that age, I think it takes shorter and shorter period of time to lose your legs a little bit and lose your feet. I'm sure he's been doing everything he can, but I mean, if you remember back to last year around this time, he started to kind of taper off a little bit and get exposed and not be able to keep up and get caught in some vulnerable positions. So we'll see. I like Gio, and he can bring a lot of experience and a little bit of old school and kind of knows what to do out there. But just if he can execute and not be effective, yet to be seen. Hopefully he gets into a couple of games and we can see where he's at. I'm sure we will down the next dozen less games.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I think you get him in there. You give a couple of different combinations a look. I think assuming Edmondson and Riley, it's nothing major. You have 9 healthy defensemen, just like last year, right? Like, don't forget Eric Gustafsson, I think, was in the lineup for Game 5 against the Florida Panthers. I mean, I do see a world where they use 7 of 9 guys, 8 of 9 guys. Like I talked about this yesterday. A big part of the Stanley Cup playoffs is how you react following a loss and kind of lineup changes you make and stuff like that. So you're going to need your depth. And I think there is a role for Mark Giordano. I'm just curious at this age, coming back from that type of injury, how he's going to look. It's kind of sad. Like, this is probably his last hurrah, where I could see a pathway, a free agent in the offseason. Maybe he joins in a scouting role for this team and stays a Maple Leaf, like a la what Jason Spezza did a couple of years ago. But it's kind of sad. Like this is the end for Mark Giordano, it feels, at the ripe age of 40. And I would love to see like one last dash from this guy, you know?
Yeah, it would be nice. I mean, if you look at every guy who's ever played in the National Hockey League, the end of their career, it's not always pretty. It's not always this skating around waving at everyone, blowing kisses while they throw flowers at you. It doesn't end that way often. Oftentimes, you don't even know it's the end of your career. Oftentimes, it's an injury that takes you out. It's just not signing when you're ready to go, and you just all of a sudden you just realize training camp starting and you're done. It's tough sometimes, and I don't think this is the worst case scenario for a Gio. He's needed in that locker room at the very least. And I don't know, it's just like when you say there's 9 guys and you're going to use all of them, I just really would prefer if they had there's 6 guys that they're going with. These are the guys, the other guys are the reserves. We're going forward with this, and then every game, whether win or loss, those guys are in the fight. They can respond. They're totally feeling, you know, they're feeling the momentum switch and just the energy and what needs to be done and what went wrong last night and what we did right. And they're in, not, oh shit, we lost that game in overtime. Now I don't play. Now the guy that was in the press box, he comes in and he's gonna try. It's not a recipe for momentum. It's not a recipe for gelling. It's not a recipe for team unity, constantly pulling and inserting guys in the lineup. I don't like it. I want you to have your guys, and barring any injury or huge disaster, those are the guys you're going with in the first round of the playoffs. That's just how I look at it. And I think it comes back to them not having success with blending up the lines like crazy. And I don't want to see them use all 9 defensemen in the playoffs. I want you to use the best 6, and that you have lots of time to decide who that is, figure it out, and go with them.
Consistency is what we're looking for from this team. Let's take our weekly look at the Atlantic Division standings, brought to you by Charm Diamond Centers. Get custom ring building delivered in less than 4 weeks with the Charm Masterpiece Program and an unbeatable pricing policy. For more information, go to charmdiamondcenters.com. Big one coming up tonight, by the way, which we'll get to in the Betano wrap-up. It's Tampa and Boston. All of a sudden, the Lightning are 4 points back of the Maple Leafs. That game in hand was used yesterday, although it's going to be lost again tonight. From the Tampa perspective, the Leafs play tomorrow, so they're going to go back and forth. I still think Toronto's pretty concrete there in the 3 spot. It is Boston in the back-to-back. I was so disappointed, man. I had Florida on the money line against the Bees, and they blew out. They blew it. Boston comes back. They win in regulation. And again, for all that convo we had, and I know the Florida Panthers still have a game in hand, as you see on your screen right there. All the convo about Toronto, Boston, man, it could easily be Toronto and Florida, which I won't lie, scares the hell out of me.
Yeah, they're both tough opponents. I mean,
Yeah.
it's probably going to be one or the other. So if Tampa catches us, we wild card it and still would play one of those teams, no?
Yeah, I think, yeah. I mean, a lot can change in the standings. I know the Rangers are Boston and the Rangers are vying for the President's Trophy. By the way, the Rangers became the first team to clinch a playoff spot last night, but they're at 100 points. Boston's at 99. So, like, yeah, there's going to be a lot of flip flopping. I just really counted Tampa out. Like, I thought they were cooked. They were done. I think they're 6-0-1 in the last 7 games. And whenever you think Tampa's done, they just find a way to get back into the picture. But I still think Toronto controls their fate here when it comes to positioning in the conference, in the division. They have 2 games left, I believe, with Tampa. I think they're going to be okay in that front. I don't think they're going to lose this, but yeah, it's either going to be Boston or Florida, it seems.
Yeah, that's kind of how I look at it, no matter
Yeah.
what's really, and that's kind of my gripe with this setup of wild card and not doing 1 through 8, because like you could go on an absolute heater, you could shit the bed, and there's like a 95% chance you're playing Boston or Florida. You know what I mean? So it's kind of
Yeah.
like it makes this time of the year kind of moot, but I I think they're both good teams. I think Florida's a little bit better than Boston, especially in the playoffs, but the Boston Bruins just I think the Leafs are just kind of head fucked about the Boston Bruins. I think they have our number. So
Yeah.
neither of them are ideal, but if it's why a first round win would be very important, more so than in the past where it's like, oh, big deal, you're sixth and you're playing third and you beat them like whoop-de-doo. It's like, no, this is a big time battle in the first round. That's what this setup kind of makes for people and for teams, is you're going to play a big boy team in the first round, and it's going to be a war regardless of who it is. And if you want to claim that you're good, then you got to beat one of these teams, and if they do, it will mean they're a pretty damn good team. And if they get by the first round, I think anything's kind of possible. I think their biggest test is going to be their first round opponent.
Man, it's just really intriguing to me how many people in hockey like hate the playoff settings right now. Like hate it. Like every day. It's like I can't believe it's like I don't know. I know it sucks, but like it's not the one thing like on a daily basis where I'm like, wow, this sucks so much. Like I think what I'm getting at is there's just a lot of really good teams in this league. You know what I mean? Like Eastern
Well,
Conference, Western Conference. I think parity's played a factor where it's like you get to the playoffs. I think the expectation is you're going to play the best teams. I think they can obviously, change things up a bit, but like a lot of people are like steadfast on change, and I just don't get it.
yeah, well, I remember when they changed to this, and it was to kind of get some big rivalries going, right?
And it
And
didn't
to
happen. Yeah.
ignite some big time wars and history and battles, and that's fine. And just my gripe with it is like, look at the
Yeah.
West. Like there's 6 really good teams, 3 of them are going to be gone in the first round. It's kind of like, fuck, that's kind of, you got 2 top tier teams playing against each other, and one of them has to lose. It's kind of shitty. You kind of want them to build that up and prove how good they are against inferior teams, which they should earn by being that really good team through 82 games. And then
Yeah.
you meet each other in the conference finals, and now this big war starts. I kind of prefer that to what they have now, because it just seems wrong that, you know, it's like, if you want to be the best, you got to beat the best. Well, 2 of the top best teams could potentially be the best to go beat the best, but one has to lose a series, and one's going home. It's kind of shitty. It's kind of early to have that in the first round. It doesn't really reward, a 7-month battle through 82 games to have to beat the best at the drop of the puck round one. It's just a little bit off to me, but
Yeah.
again, I agree. It's not my number one concern. It's not always my on the tip of my tongue bitching about it.
Yeah, because it's harder to do from the 1 and 8 days back because of the 2 division setup. I think you're always going to find a team who shouldn't be there that's in there. Like there's a lot of moving factors, but I am with you. Like I would love to see a change. I just think to your point, we were looking for these rivalries and they just haven't picked up. It's really unfortunate because you want to see it happen. But again, it is a different brand, a different stage of hockey. And again, the fighting's coming back, which is great to see. So we're all excited for the Stanley Cup playoffs. Nevertheless, it's time for the Great Clips Inbox Question of the Day. With more than 4,400 hair salons throughout the United States and Canada, Great Clips is the world's largest hair salon brand and official hair salon of the NHL. salons are locally owned, operated, open 7 days a week. Your time is valuable. Use the Great Clips check-in app. See the wait time. Check in on your phone and get your haircut when you want. Another question pertaining to Sheldon Keefe today. Jay Brote writes in, is Keefe gone if the Leafs don't make the conference finals? What say you, Rosie?
If they don't make this, so if they lose in the second round again, first round.
I think it's the way they lose. If they lose.
Yeah. I mean, I do think so. You got to change something up. It looks like they're locking these guys up, quote unquote, running it back with these players. So, I mean, you can't go in with Keefe again, do the exact same thing for the third year, fourth year. How far do you want to go back? Yeah, I do think Keefe will be gone if they don't have playoff success this year.
Yeah, and again, a lot of people pointing to the contract extension. That means nothing in this universe. They'll happily pay him to go elsewhere and coach elsewhere. So I don't think that's a factor. I think it's got to be a process type conversation. It really, to me, depends how this team looks in the playoffs. Like if they lose a hard fought 7-game series in round 2, I could see a pathway where he returns, where it really feels like guys are turning corners and stuff like that. I think if they lose in the first round, I think he's done. I think they will not accept another first round exit. I really do feel that way. But I do think a lot of the conversation will be around how this team looks, how they play. If they play more like they did against Tampa and less like they played against Florida last year, I think he'll be in good standing. But I think he's got to do something substantial. And it is a results-oriented business, right? If you can't go far, then it could be time for a change, especially when you look around the league, how quickly teams make changes sometimes.
Yeah, and I always think how, when they went to Mike Babcock, they wanted a little bit more of a disciplined coach, right? And I think that was the right move. It's just Mike Babcock's a complete asshole and nobody wants to play with him. So they kind of missed the boat on the individual, but I think their headspace was right. And then because that didn't work, they go straight to Sheldon Keefe, who's pretty much, a new age players coach and stuff. And I think you need a blend of something in between. Something with some experience, someone who knows systems and knows what wins. And I cannot stop thinking of Joel Quenneville, who checks all those boxes. He's a no bullshit guy, but he's kind and caring and honest and, cares about his players. He's won multiple things. I don't give a shit about that debacle in Chicago and why he wasn't there. I don't think that has anything to do with his character as a man whatsoever. I think it's a complete anomaly, and I don't think it was on him. And I think he absolutely deserves a chance to coach in this league again. And I don't think there's a better fit for the Toronto Maple Leafs if Sheldon Keefe gets canned than Joel Quenneville.
For more information, check out greatclips.com. Great Clips, it's going to be great. And again, go back and check out our interview with Coach Q about, a month ago. It was fascinating stuff. And in fact, it was his first interview in 3 years, at least publicly.
Crazy.
So go and check that out at the Leafs Nation 401. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Lastly, the Betano wrap-up presented by Betano.ca. The game starts now. 19 plus, please play responsibly. Major announcement. Betano is the official partner of Copa America 2024, taking the beautiful game to new heights in the Americas. Join Betano on their journey of passion, unity, and unforgettable football moments. There's just 2 games on the slate tonight before 14 on Thursday. I like the Tage Thompson assist prop tonight, Buffalo and Ottawa. And Boston and Tampa, I was liking Boston, but they won last night. That's a tough one. I'll probably stay away from that one.
How about Tampa's favored in that one?
Yeah, it's because Boston played last night. But I actually, if I have to pick a side, I'm going with Boston. And I'm citing the fatigue spot where Tampa's coming back from the West Coast, a 5-game road trip, and teams tend to lay a stinker in that first game back.
Yeah, it's a tough pickup on both of those games. Tough betting lineup. The Sens are plus 20 on the Sabres. Yeah, tough one, man. I like where you're going. I don't have a big take on that. I always forget about this segment and look at live and can't come to a decision, which is a lot of the times why I don't end up betting. If I don't have a real good feeling about something, I don't throw anything out there. So that's what I'm doing today. Sorry.
We've come a long way since day one of this show where it's like, hey, Rosie, I'm going to lay a bet today. If I win, I'll keep going. I'm like, fuck, man. So I don't know. I'm obviously really tied up in the betting landscape now, doing a bunch of stuff for the NHL and the whole money line show. So it's come second nature. I got bets out the ass this time here specifically. So we'll roll with it. We'll come back for one more show, by the way. Programming note, no show on Friday for Good Friday, of course. So we'll be back on Monday, but the final show of the week coming up on Thursday. And we're going to tee up another installment between the Leafs and the Washington Capitals. Ovi and company coming to Scotiabank Arena. And I'm going to call it right now. I think Matthews gets 60 in front of Ovechkin. I think that'd be great.
That'd be neat. That would be neat. We'll see if that comes. But in bigger, more important news, I think we crossed over to our subscriber goal today.
Oh, shit. Yeah, looks like we've hit 8,000 subscribers. So we love all of you. Appreciate you for taking this ride with us. If you haven't done so already, at the Leaf Station 401, hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button. We'll talk tomorrow, Rosie, okay?
Cool, man. Thanks to everyone watching the show. We love doing it. And thanks for supporting. Tell your friends. Share it around. Rock and roll. See you later.
Yeah, just share us. Just tell everybody, please. Producer Vic, you are the best. We love you. For Jay Rosehill, I'm Nick Alberga. Talk tomorrow. Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long form interviews, we got clips, we got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.